This is Parker Hesse.
This is Sam Branks.
You have the pleasure of listening to Hawkeyes and Tallboys. Cheers, motherfuckers.
Welcome to the Hawkeyes and Tallboys podcast, featuring your hosts, Bo Freeborn.
You know, guys, even though we get 2 conference losses, we're still going to end up 9-3. We're going to win the West for sure.
Dylan Pond.
Here's the thing, fellas. I'm going with it. 12-0, baby. We're going to do it. Let's fucking go. Woo!
And Rob Wall.
I mean, that would be shocking. But we can do it. I mean, I think we can.
So crack a tall boy and go Hawks.
Okay, welcome into another episode of Hawkeyes and Tallboys. My name's Rob.
And my name's Bo.
And Dylan will be here in just a moment. But
Until then, let's crack some beers.
Let's crack it.
Yeah, hell yeah. What a week, Rob. Glad to be seeing you tonight and glad to be drinking beers in the middle of the week. This is going to taste really damn good.
Cheers, man. I was just telling Bo, and I don't even know if I want to say this on the podcast, but now that I'm talking about it, I will. I'm drinking a little tall boy that I got for $1 at Hy-Vee. So if any of you listeners go to Hy-Vee, there's a discounted liquor section. And I think it's because some of the cans get like messed up, like this one's kind of crinkled, and they just sell them for discount. So yeah, we got like a bunch of singles for like 50 cents for the cans and then $1 for the Busch Lights. But anyways, super happy about the deal.
Dude, that's a killer deal right there. Thank you, Hy-Vee. Appreciate
it. It tastes normal. I mean, I don't taste anything weird about it. I'm just thinking like maybe if it's like super old or something, but no.
Yeah, it must be some like expiration date thing. But anyway, at least you got it for a killer deal, man.
That's right. That's the main thing. I got it for a deal, and don't go take any more else because I want more deals. All you listeners. Okay. So yeah, today we got a great episode here. Dylan will be joining us shortly. We're going to be talking about Iowa Hawkeye basketball. We're going to get into the recent match, wrestling match that we had with the Hawks Team Way winners on. Spoiler alert. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the wrestling team and the high hopes that they have for their season, and then how the lineup is going to shake out a little bit more. I think we mentioned that last week, so we'll get into that as well. But first, let's go ahead and talk about the Iowa men's basketball team. Since we last spoke, they have gone to Northwestern and completely dismantled the team. And Bo, did you get a chance to check out that game?
Yeah, dude. So first and foremost, I think we talked about it last on the podcast, but we were supposed to play Michigan State last Thursday. Unfortunately, they had a ton of COVID going on there, so they postponed that game. So we fast forward to Sunday and played Northwestern. Iowa looked unstoppable. So Jordan Bohannon was doing Jordan Bohannon things, knocking down trays. Garza looked like Garzilla again. Wieskamp was quiet, but had a pretty damn good game, and so did C.J. Frederick. And our bench players looked really good and really helped us out when we needed it. Jack Nungy came off the bench, and I think he had 9 points overall and a ton of boards. And Keegan Murray played some good minutes. So did Patrick McCaffrey. So humming on all cylinders. I think we end up winning by just shy of 25 points. And then Iowa's offense put up 97 points. And, when Iowa scores more than 85 points, you got to think that Iowa's going to be either in the game or they're going to end up winning that game, which they did.
Absolutely. The announcers even mentioned it towards the end of the game. There's like 4 minutes left, and we're already above like what our average is. So it's like, this is just going to push the average up. We were scoring frequently, and it wasn't. Speaking of scoring, it wasn't just Garza carrying the load there. We came away with a 96-73 victory, and it wasn't close throughout. But Garza only had 17 points, and you figure somebody who's averaging 27 points a game would be scoring more, but it was really a well-balanced attack on the Hawkeyes on offense.
And what's crazy about that, Rob, is that Garza had those 17 points all in the first half, and he didn't necessarily get shut out. He just didn't get any touches, and he just assisted the ball, passed the ball everywhere. So kudos to him for not wanting to go out and just, get 30 points just to keep his average up. But, Iowa ended up putting in their bench players with 10 minutes left in the game. So, I mean, if that doesn't tell you how good of a day they had on Sunday, I don't know what does.
Yeah. And speaking of minutes played, so Garza played 24. Joe Wieskamp actually was on the court the most with 27 minutes for the game. But yeah, it's nice to, be able to conserve our star players when we can, and get the other players some much needed playing time and let them, let us see a little bit more about what they have. And speaking of, so we've talked about Keegan Murray before, but he played 16 minutes this last game. He played a lot. He was 4 for 4 from the field, had 8 points, 7 rebounds. I mean, as a true freshman who's getting these minutes, I mean, he's been pretty impressive.
For sure. And he had a really nice breakaway dunk to end the half there against Northwestern too. And I know we talked about it last time, but Friends talking about trying to get Chris, his brother, more involved. But dude, we have so many guys right now who are playing at a high level, and we just can't give up that many minutes to other people. Like, we need to get Jack Nungy more minutes. We need to get Keegan Murray more minutes. Patrick McCaffrey and Joe Toussaint all need more minutes. We have, 9 guys that could easily be starting right now. I wouldn't know. I don't know if I'll go that far, but anyway, we got 9 guys who truly are in a rotation and need to get those minutes. And we got guys on the bench that are just as good. It's just like, man, how do you even that out? You almost need some of these guys to graduate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Speaking of, so we got to see Perkins. We got to see Aaron Eulis, Mike Bear. Everybody on the team played a little bit this last game, which was cool to see.
We even saw Austin Ash come in, and I think he chucked up two 3-pointers just to try and get something to go, which, that's cool. Austin Ash, redshirt senior. Good to see him get some minutes too. So, but yeah, it was nice to see Perkins and Eulis get some playing time, because those guys are going to be some studs here in the future.
It's interesting when it comes to shooting. Obviously, you mentioned Ash threw up 2 threes, didn't make either of them. The team, despite all the threes that so there were bench, players who didn't start the game. They shot a total of, looks like 6 threes, or no. Yeah, 6 threes, and only made 1 from the bench. And the team still shot 41.7% from 3. Our starters were Bohannon 3 for 5, CJ Frederick 3 for 6, McCaffrey missed a 3, Joe Wieskamp was 2 for 3, Luka Garza was 1 for 3, and he almost was 2 for 3. There was one that was in and out.
You think about that too. Like, you go through those stats, everybody but Garza was over 50%. And if you guys are shooting, 50% from 3-pointer, I mean, they're on. And, like I said, we've talked about this all year. The analysts have said this too. If Garza gets going down low, they're going to try and double him. We're going to kick it out to somebody who's going to shoot the big 3 ball. And you can almost guarantee when Bohannon gets the ball in his hand and when Frederick gets the ball in his hand behind the 3-point line, I mean, it's a 50-50. It's going in, but more likely than not, it's going down.
Yep. We also led in rebounding category. We out-rebounded the Northwestern Wildcats 40-27. So, I mean, if we're going to make shots and we're going to get the rebounds, I mean, we're going to be a hard team to beat come March. And I think this is a great example of just like a well-executed offense and a decent playing defense. I wouldn't say, I mean, it's a great Hawkeye win. Northwestern Wildcats, I think they're a few years away from being anything that could contend for a Big Ten, I don't know, championship. I mean, they're kind of a middle of the road team is what I'm trying to say. They do have, interestingly enough, though, so one of Larry Nance's kids, Peter Nance, plays on the team. He was their leading scorer. So kind of interesting to see. So I don't know if you remember Larry Nance Jr., I think, is in the NBA. He was like a slam dunk runner-up. And Peter Nance, he's a forward on the squad, and he had 16 points. It was kind of cool to see that, kind of an odd little stat, Pete Nance. But 6'10", 225 junior.
You know, it'd be a lot of my hometown buddies and I were talking about this the other day. He would be the perfect guy to come in and fill Luka Garza's spot. Obviously, he's not going to be, a bruiser down low, but just somebody with experience to come in next year and play, know he'd start, get a lot of minutes. He'd be an awesome transfer to the University of Iowa next year, but I don't know if he would be. I don't know if he'd be willing to do that or not, but I think that's a great segue, though. I guess talking about this basketball team, Rob, I know you've seen quite a few of their games so far this year. What are your two biggest takeaways so far, especially after this Northwestern game? I know we kind of talked about it last week, but anything you like to add or anything you like to change based off takeaways so far this year?
Yeah. So, just looking at through, looks like 14 games, we're 12-2. I think that things that are going well for us, nobody has really shut down Garza. Like, I haven't seen him, he's been facing double teams a lot this year. And even the games that he's quote unquote quiet, like this game, he was quiet. It's because we really didn't need him to like go in and make a lot of big plays and really, there was never a time in this game where we really needed a bucket. But I will say that when we do need a bucket, we have him available and he comes through. And so that's something that we really haven't had before, that I can remember in the past 5 or so years. Just somebody who will get you that go-to bucket. And I think that works really great. And if you have somebody like that, you can play a really nice inside-out offense is what we do. He's got surrounded with shooters. It's kind of, the exact combination of a team that I think could be dangerous come March. Now, I will say when we faced a team that gave us adversity, like Gonzaga, watching that game, when we don't shoot well and when we don't get the rebounds, that's going to spell disaster. And I think anybody who watched that Gonzaga game, and it sort of showed it a little bit when we lost to Minnesota. I mean, that was a close game, so that really could have gone either way. I think we should have had that one. Regardless, if we don't make our shots and we don't at least beat the other team in rebounding, then I think that's really going to be tough. So I think that's part of the reason why we play like a 1-3-1 zone defense, so we can have guys around the rim to get the rebound and get at it on the fast break. I'm assuming that's why we're playing that way. I do see that it's kind of a matchup zone. There's times where we play man-to-man, which is great. I actually prefer like a man-to-man type defense. But, I think so far we've been able to, get rebounds and get boards. But I just wonder, like, against a team maybe similarly built to Gonzaga with a really big front court or guys that just, if we start getting out rebounded, like, I think we need to recognize that sooner and make some changes, or else it's going to spell disaster.
I think Fran's been doing a pretty good job of playing a lot more man than he has zone lately, which has been really good and something that I think a lot of fans have noticed too. I think when we've seen them play zone lately, they just haven't been efficient enough to show that we need to stay in that zone. So I like your thoughts on that, Rob. And honestly, that defense has carried us to a 12-2 start right now. And last week, we were looking at a strong Michigan team who was undefeated. They got their asses kicked last week. And so your Iowa Hawkeyes are 6-1. We're first in the Big Ten, which is pretty dope. And we're on a 5-game win streak. So obviously a lot of great takeaways. But Rob, really liked what you hit on there as well. So kind of looking into the next game, we play Indiana tomorrow. We got Illinois, huge game on Friday, Ohio State next Thursday, and then again at Indiana on Sunday. Dill, I'll pass to you here. What do you think about this Indiana squad? What do we got to look for tomorrow night?
I was looking into them a little bit here today, and noticed they're 8-6 right now. So obviously they don't have the best record in the world, but they got a stud in sophomore Trace Jackson Davis. Looking into some of his stats, he's 6'8" forward for him and averaging 20.4 points per game. So the kid's just a freak. I don't know if you guys had seen him on tape at all this year, but just he seems to be the guy for them right there. And he's definitely the future of that program right there. So certainly not your typical Indiana team you're going to see year in, year out. That's a threat to, go deep in the tournament and whatnot. But, a young, talented team nonetheless. So there's no teams in the Big Ten you can take lightly this year.
For sure. And with Trace Jackson Davis, so far they have him 8th in the MVP or Player of the Year poll. So, I mean, that says something about how good he is too. But Rob, do you have any takeaways or any thoughts about tomorrow's game?
Guys, I think it's going to be much the same as it was against Northwestern. I don't think they're going to play as tough. I think that they got a really great guy in Trace Jackson Davis. So I'd be interested to see how he matches up against Garza, or if he's going to be playing against, if Nunji gets the start, how they stack up or what they decide to do there. But yeah, so that'll be interesting. But also, I don't know. I don't think that he can. I'd be surprised if he's able to lock down Garza.
Yeah, I don't know if they have anybody big enough to lock down Garza, to be honest. And I really like how you said Northwestern, because I think that this is probably going to be a 20-plus point game again. Indiana, again, I'm not going to take any credit away from them. I'm sure they're going to fight as hard as they can. Trace Jackson Davis is going to keep them in the game as long as he can. But there's only so much you can do when you have a dual threat in Luka Garza down low and then the shooters on the outside.
Right.
And for you degenerates out there, so this upcoming game against the Indiana Hoosiers tomorrow, we're actually ranked number 4 in the nation. We are minus 10.5 as far as the spread. So if you're looking at that, I think that I would put money on the Hawks to beat the spread. They're 10-4 looks like. Sorry, I had to look at it. 12-4 10-4 against the spread this season. Over-unders at 151.5, which seems reasonable. I would shoot the over, though.
Yeah, take the over.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so, too. So, interesting, guys. It'll be fun to play. The team averages 72.6 points a game. That's Indiana. And Iowa averages 92, and that just actually went up since Northwestern. So we're averaging 92 points a game. It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. Speaking of averaging a ton of points, we'll go straight over into wrestling from here. Iowa went ahead last week and beat the shit out of Nebraska 31-6. I know we had our guest podcaster Lance on here, and I think he was suggesting that we'd win 28-6 or something like that, maybe lose a team point. So good to see the Iowa wrestlers go ahead and put on one hell of a duel and score some points.
Dude, they really did. And, I know me and him were pretty much tit for tat, going through our predictions and whatnot. But, yeah, obviously 4 Hawks, getting bonus points is phenomenal in wrestling. That's what commentary brands call domination right there. So, just specifically rolling through it, at 125, number 1 in the nation, number 1 in our hearts, Spencer Lee, getting the pin over number 11, Liam Cronin. For those of you that don't know, he's actually a transfer out of Indiana. So hell of a wrestler right there. Going on, 133, you had Austin DeSanto doing his thing, pushing the pace, ends up with the tech fall over Iowa's own Alex Thompson. Number 141, we got our first taste of Jaden Ironman in a Hawkeye singlet. Pumped to see him come out with the grid showing against Chad Red, currently ranked number 7 in the nation. Good wrestler. What were you saying, Rob?
Is Jaden, is he a freshman?
So he is a senior, but he will be coming back next year as well. But he was a transfer out of Mizzou. So he was a 3-time All-American for Missouri.
Never mind.
Yep.
I remember now. Sorry.
Yep. That's okay. No, good question. If you had that question, somebody else probably did. So, no, and hell of him, hell of a match with him being matched up with All-American Chad Red as well. And, what a way to come into Carver and, come out with a bang. He started a little slow, but came out on top. So that was good to see. Then to see Mad Max Mirren come out with the decision against Brock Hardy as well. For those of you that don't really follow wrestling, Brock Hardy's kind of one of those young up-and-comers. So currently ranked 20th, but, Nebraska sees him being a future multiple-time All-American for sure. So good to see. And then at 157, you had Caleb Young, currently ranked 6th in the nation, come out with a major decision against Caleb Licking. So I don't know, for those of you that follow wrestling quite a bit, I don't think Caleb's necessarily known for his incredible offense. He's a very good defensive wrestler for the most part, but not necessarily known for his offense. Well, comes out, scores 17 points to earn that major decision, and was just one move shy of getting that tech fall there. So love to see that early on from him. Just hope he can hold weight and everything and do well and, stay filled out at that 157. So good to see him there. Number 2, the bull, Alex Marinelli, gets the decision over Peyton Robb, currently ranked 18th. And we, me and Lance and you guys as well talked a little bit about Peyton Robb coming in and, seeing him come in as a true freshman last year in that Nebraska lineup, and he gave Caleb Young all he can handle. So we knew this would be a tough match for the bull, and it was early on, but obviously he pulled away. And then at 174, we didn't see our number 1 ranked wrestler, but we got to see 4-time Minnesota State champion Patrick Kennedy. So a lot of people probably came away from this match a little bit disappointed, but with Mikey Labriola, that's no slouch wrestler you got right there. He's, All-American for a reason, currently ranked number 4 in the nation, and gets that decision over Patrick Kennedy. And really what I saw there is just, you saw some of Kennedy's inexperience where it's pretty evident that he's been destroying wrestlers his whole life. And so he got into a few of those scramble situations where he didn't come out on top, and that was the difference in the match. So hell of a lot of upside with Patrick Kennedy, and, absolutely nothing to be disappointed about.
I was going to say the same thing too. I was actually really excited about that too. And all you gotta know about this kid is you put a little bit more muscle on him, get him a little leaner. This kid's going to be mean. And I think a lot of people were wondering, hey, why do you wrestle Kennedy over Kemmerer here? To me,
Why not?
I was just going to ask that.
Yeah, it's a great idea by Tom and Terry Brands to get him some great experience, especially against number 4 wrestler in the nation right now. Wrestled a terrific match and only lost 7-4.
Yeah.
It was an awesome match. Good for him.
Right. And that, extra point came from riding time as well. So he was, in that match up till the very end. So, hell of a match by Patrick Kennedy. There's just no other way to go about that. So awesome match by him. Really love to see it. He's going to be one of the future studs for the Hawkeyes. So
are they just putting him in there in 174 over Kemmerer to just get him some experience? Is that
exactly? Yep. The duel was out of hand. So, obviously the Hawkeyes were going to win the duel. So it's like, hey, why not throw him in there? Let's see what happens. And if you notice too, you saw Terry Brands and Michael Kemmerer in the back kind of scouting and, looking into Labriola, I think it is, looking into some of his scrambling techniques and whatnot to help Kemmerer for, their future matches at Big Tens and whatnot.
Well, and even to coach Kennedy a little bit too, coach him up a little bit. I think that was a huge, big time coaching move by Kemmerer.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, that should give him all the confidence in the world. Like he's the number 2 wrestler at 174 for more than likely the next 2 years. So it's like, okay, yeah, you can come in now and you can compete with anybody. So
I have a question too. So like at this point in the match, we just finished our sixth match. That was the 165 Marinelli over Peyton Robb. And at this point we're up 24-0 on Nebraska. Sorry. Mm-hmm. So at this point, like, is this like a game time decision, or do you think that they planned ahead and were like, hey, Patrick Kennedy, like, be ready because we might throw you in? Or do you think they're just like, you know what, fuck it, let's get him in there?
So a little bit of both, I think. And I can't remember when they like announced the starting lineups, who went up or if they both went up, but they do it both ways, Rob, where, typically you'll hear like when they're announcing starting lineups, when you're in Carver, you'd hear like, and number 1 in the nation, Michael Kemmerer or Patrick Kennedy, and they'll both come out and shake hands with Mikey, Labriola. So,
at the beginning,
it's a little bit of both. Yep.
Yes.
So
okay.
So it's a match time decision a lot of times. I'm not saying this one was. I'm not 100% for sure. I didn't see starting lineups, so can't say what with 100% certainty. But typically, that's a match time decision. Like, hey, Patrick, see what you got, kind of thing. So those guys are warming up like they got a match.
Okay, and I was thinking too, like, because I forgot that they announced all the matches before the whole meet starts. Or at the beginning of the meet. So I was also thinking, like, is that maybe strategy, so the opponents see like, okay, it's either going to be this guy or this guy, so they can't really plan ahead at all?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely a strategy as well. So, you don't want,
interesting.
You don't want to see Kemmerer give away, a big move. here that, Mikey can come back and plan for at Big Tens or at, most importantly, NCAAs. So, you don't want to see that either. Some in the wrestling community call that ducking. I don't know. I don't see it that way myself. I just see it as, these guys are all, 22, 23 years old, as far as the older guys on the squad. So it's like, get them enough matches to qualify for Big Tens and call it good, and let them go out and show their thing there. That's my opinion, though, of course. So.
Well, that makes sense to me.
Right. So,
you don't want to see Kemmer out there and just, give somebody the sharpshooter.
Absolutely. But getting back to the duel here at 184, not necessarily a surprise because we saw it in the probable lineups, but we didn't see Abe Assad in there. And so you saw number 8 in the nation, Nelson Brands, major decision, Taylor Venz with a score of 13-5. And for those of you that saw Nelson Brands wrestle last year, you saw the talent was there. I don't think he was quite filled out for that 184 weight class just yet. And if anyone had any doubts coming into that Nebraska duel, they don't anymore. Wow. That was an absolute hell of a match by him. He was on his offense the entire time. Taylor Venz, who's an All-American in his own right, could not take him down. It was just an incredible performance, and I think he's criminally underrated at number 8 myself. So awesome to see that there. And then, at 197, you see Eric Schultz out of Nebraska beat Jacob Warner with the decision. And, I heard a few guys upset with this one. Could have seen Warner go to his offense a little bit quicker. I get that, but, Eric Schultz is a stud for a reason in his own right. So these guys are going to, these guys are going to wrestle 2 more times. And I'd be very, very surprised if Jacob Warner doesn't get one of those matches. So both excellent wrestlers. I think we gave the nod to Schultz before because he won their last matchup, and that was kind of our thinking there. But yeah, literally just the difference in one takedown, and that's obviously made this match here. And that's going to be a matchup to watch here in the Big Tens here in the next few weeks and at the NCAAs as well. And then looking at 285, obviously big Cassiope, Rob's boy, Tony Cassiope, Illinois. Haniga? I think I said that right. Haniga?
It's I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's spelled like Hananiga or like Honanega or Hananiga.
Okay. So listeners, feel free to correct us there.
If you're from Hananiga.
Right. So he gets the decision over Christian Lance there, 4-0. So that ends up, the Hawkeyes winning the duel at 31-6. And like I mentioned before, 4 Hawkeyes scored bonus points, which comes NCAA's time. That's just massive. If you want to come home as an NCAA champion team-wise, if you want to win a team championship, you got to have those bonus points in there. So awesome to see. I mean, my overall takes just from all of this.
And look at that smile.
That's big.
Biggest smile on the team, Tony Cassiope.
Love it.
Straight out of Roscoe, Illinois, baby.
Hell yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, no, you're fine. He's going to be a force for a while. And we're going to get into this a little bit too, but he's going to have himself a top 5 showdown with Gable Stevenson this week too. So that's going to be awesome to see. But my biggest takeaways from that last meet, Leon DeSanto, they took care of business. They did what you expect of them. Both solid wrestlers there. Kind of like I mentioned, Jaden Ironman, he started slow, ended up well. Mirren Young, Marinelli, and Cassiope all come out hot. Gritty performances by every single one of them. And, like we touched on, the big surprise of the meet was Nelson Brands. That was just, he's without a doubt the wrestler of the night. The dude just straight up kicked ass. Like there was never a doubt in that match who was going to win. So awesome to see. We think Pat Kennedy has a hell of a future. Again, as far as Warner's loss to Schultz goes, they're going to wrestle 2 more times, and I'd be shocked if Warner doesn't get him at Big Tens or NCAA. So, yeah, just awesome first performance out of the gate. I guess, what did you guys think?
For sure, I agreed. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I think we all knew it was kind of going to be a blowout before going in there. But I agree. I thought Nelson Brands, honestly, I'm sure you probably said this already.
Mhm.
He looked 100 times different than he did from last year.
He looks stacked.
He looks cut and he looks strong. He looks mentally there.
God, he reminded me of like Brock Lesnar, like in his college wrestling days. Like, and for those of you, maybe casual wrestling fans or whatever, like go look up a video of Brock Lesnar wrestling for the University of Minnesota under Jay Robinson. Like, just incredible. Like, God, I questioned a couple times if Nelson did a few roids or something over the summer. Like he just looked massive. So that was awesome to see.
And on that first takedown too, I think that the guy he wrestled here, Taylor Vince, took a shot at his leg and it almost looked like he hit it and bounced back.
Yeah.
And then Nelson threw him to the side and went over the top. It's like, my God, man.
Yeah. and that's the thing. Nelson Brands wasn't doing any like crazy moves. Like, these are all moves you learn year one in wrestling. Like, he did a couple go behinds, scored that way, and then just double legs, and going from single leg drag to a double leg and whatnot. But like, it was just incredible to see. It was just a dominant performance, and frankly, that's what you would expect out of one of the Brands boys. So that's awesome.
Overall, thought the match was really good too. And I do want to bring this up too. You did mention it a little bit, but for all those Hawkeye wrestling listeners out there, what do you think about Abe Assad? I mean, what's he going to do seeing that, Brands goes out and has a great first match of the year at Carver against the top 6 wrestler in Taylor Vince?
I mean, it's the Iowa wrestling mentality. I don't think Abe Assad has an ounce of quit in him. So I think he's going to keep pushing for that 84 spot this year. And as far as that goes, I mean, you're going to have, 74 open here in the next couple of years. You got, 197 that's going to be opening up in the next couple of years with Jacob Warner as well. So, long term, both of these guys are going to be in the lineup because they're both just straight hammers. I mean, that's just all there is to it. So you're going to see both of these guys, but obviously, we were all wondering if Nelson Brands won that wrestle off, and I think it's clear he won it. And I think he might have won it by a large margin. So.
Yeah, well, and you guys talked about it. He won big time in freestyle too. I know it's a different style of wrestling, but something like that can really screw with somebody's mentality too. And just kind of looking at the extra matches too, it doesn't look like he got the nod in any of the extra matches, unfortunately, either. But it was really nice to see that they're letting some of those other guys wrestle and have the ability to wrestle outside of just wrestling the same guys day in, day out.
Absolutely.
At Carver too. So
absolutely. And it could always be just one of those things too, where you might have a nagging injury too. And it's like, hey, this year doesn't count anyways. Don't worry about it.
Well, and lucky us for having somebody like Nelson Brands to come in and fill the spot and do just as good.
Yeah, no doubt. That's an awesome problem to have, isn't it?
For sure. So,
but yeah, I mean, getting into Friday night. So Iowa, in Big Ten, for those of you that don't know, Big Ten is absolutely the mecca of college wrestling. Typically whoever wins Big Tens, they have pretty damn good shot at winning it all at the NCAAs in the next few weeks. So Iowa, the road doesn't get any easier. Now, it's not a top 5, top 6 matchup like it was versus Nebraska, but we got number 15 Minnesota coming into town. And are we going to Minnesota?
No, it's at Minnesota. I
was going to say double check that.
Right there.
Okay, there you go. Yep. So we're going to Minnesota, the former home of Jay Robinson, who was giving all his wrestlers Adderall. He can't be doing that, so he's not there anymore. But nonetheless, so we got some good matchups coming here as well. So, and nice, you got the probables up there for us. I like that, Rob.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So looking at this, we got number 1 in the nation, Spencer Lee, taking on the co-Big Ten Wrestler of the Week in Patrick Mckee, who's currently ranked number 9. So this is going to be a fun one, but Spencer Lee is Spencer Lee. I'm just going to go ahead and give my predictions as I give these out. Hope you guys are cool with that.
Yep.
I'm going Spencer Lee with the tech fall here. I don't think he pins him, but I think he's going to get the tech. So he'll win by 15. And then at 133, you got number 4 in the nation, Austin Sano versus Boo Dryden, currently ranked 20th. Again, I'm going tech fall, maybe possibly major decision there. So I'll go tech. I'll go
with
tech.
That one, I think that one is going to be an interesting to watch because Boo Dryden is top 5 in the nation in the all-name team. He's got an interesting name. I wonder what Boo is short for. I bet some of the Minnesota fans might know.
Who's that kid from Northwestern? That Boo Booey? Is he at the same spelling?
Oh, the basketball
I
player?
don't know.
Basketball
I'll
player,
look
yeah.
into that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know either. That's a really good question.
But I do think DeSanto just destroys this kid.
Oh yeah. I think he's gonna. I think Tech fall for sure at the very worst major. But for prediction wise, I'll go Tech here too. You got Jaden Ironman versus Marcus Polanco. I'm going with the pinfall here. So throw 6 points on the board there. I think Ironman's going to show his true colors against the inferior Polanco. So no discredit there. And then you're going to see Max Mirren or Brettley Reyna going against Michael Blockhouse or Jake Berglund. So now we talked about this a little bit with Patrick Kennedy coming in for Michael Kemmerer. This very well may be a spot where you see Brettley Reyna, 4-time state champ out of Florida, come in. So seeing him wrestle Michael Blockhouse or Jake Berglund. So we'll see what happens there. But just for prediction wise, we're going to assume it's Max Mirren and Michael Blockhouse. I'm going straight decision there towards Mirren. So, that puts the Hawkeyes up 19-0 after four matches, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So a lot of bonus points I got early on for the Hawks. Then from there, you got Caleb Young and Brayton Lee. So we got ourselves, a top 10 matchup here. This is going to be a fun one, guys. I know they've had a few matches before. I don't know what their records are head-to-head right now, but if you ask me this one preseason, I think Brayton Lee gets them. But just the way that I seen Caleb Young wrestle this past week versus Nebraska, there's that offensive edge to him that we haven't seen in a while. So I think he comes out and he gets this decision in Minneapolis. So we're going Caleb Young there at 57. What were you at?
Yeah, which would bring the Iowa score 22-0. The only thing I want to bring up right here is Brayton Lee's had 3 matches so far where Caleb Young's only had 1. So I don't know. I'm a little curious about that.
Right.
I think it's going to be a lot closer. I agree with the decision,
Mhm.
but I almost think that Brayton Lee might even get Young here.
Oh, and he very well could.
You never know.
I
It's a toss-up.
I was going to say, I know he has before. So,
Yep.
But yeah, that's going to be a fun one. So if nothing else, tune into the duel for that. And then at 165, you're going to have the Bull, Alex Marinelli, taking on Andrew Sparks, currently ranked 13th, or possibly Bailey O'Reilly as well. So I think you see the Bull come out here and get a decision. Could even possibly be major, but the Bull is too good. So, and then you're going to see Michael Kemmerer come in versus, or possibly Patrick Kennedy as well, I guess, versus Jake Alar. Currently ranked number 16 in the nation. I'm going major here. I think guys get bonus points again. I just think Michael Kemmerer, his season debut, he's going to be locked and loaded, ready to go. 84, you're going to have, I almost said Tom Brands, Jesus, Nelson Brands, number 6 in the nation, taking on Owen Webster. I'm going to play it safe here, go decision. Although I think if Brands wrestles the way he did last week, there's no doubt he can go major or even potentially tech fall, which you don't see often with the big men. But I don't know. Nelson Brands, the way he wrestled last week and just the dominant performance, and he was just impossible to take down. I know we keep harping on that, but good God, like Taylor Venz, who's a takedown artist, and we've seen that from him, plenty in the past couple of years, especially with his battles with Abe Assad and whatnot. So,
And think about this too. Kind of the same thing that we saw last week. We could even see Abe Assad step in here,
Absolutely.
just knowing that prior to this we have Iowa up 29-0.
Right.
We could see Abe Assad just kind of get his feet in there and get a match in too.
Yeah,
So
and
I guess we'll
see what he's got. Absolutely.
Yep.
No, that very well could be the case. So, then at 97, you're going to have a very, very pissed off Jacob Warner. So he's going to come in. He's going to get just a decision. He's not a real high point scorer, but he is going to win right there. And then the match of the night, big Tony Cassiope, number 3 in the nation, versus the vilified Tom Brand's words, Gable Stevenson, number 1 in the nation out of Minnesota. God, Gable's a punk. And, and Tom said it best himself. He's like, yeah, he didn't say he was a punk, but, he said how this sport has vilified him in the wrestling community. but it's one of those things. If he was on our team, God, we would love him.
Yep.
We would absolutely love him. So you're going to see Gable Stevenson win this match. Unfortunately, he's just got too much firepower for Cass. Now, that being said, I know I said it on Twitter, so people are going to call me a hypocrite. I wouldn't be surprised. Tom Brands and everybody, they believe in their guy. He could pull that upset, but as far as me doing these predictions, I just can't do it right now. I cannot do it. I have not seen enough of Cass. He looked good last week, don't get me wrong, but 4-0 is not going to beat Gable Stevenson. He's just too good on his feet. He's too quick. As far as that 285 weight class goes, the man, it looks like he runs like a 4.540. Like he's just incredibly fast, incredibly athletic, phenomenal in scramble situations. I just don't see it myself. I think Gable Stevenson's going to come away with this victory. So that's
what I'm saying. Like, the dude looks like Aaron Donald. Like, here's a great photo of him. Like, he's jacked and he looks like he can move around, which you don't see a lot. Usually the smaller guys are the ones that are able to jump around and have a lot of energy and things like that when it comes to wrestling.
Oh, exactly. I couldn't agree more. So, and the dude's a freak. He's going to go down as one of the best heavyweight collegiate wrestlers of all time. And, I think he's going to have a very good career in the world circuit as well. And, he's a pretty good freestyle wrestler as well. So definitely has a shot at, making an Olympic team at some point.
On that note too, our guy Lance sent me a text prior to this, and we were thinking, hey, maybe Tony Cassiope could potentially pull this off after hearing what Tom Brands had to say. And he's like, man, Gable Stevenson and that kid from Michigan are just on a whole new level.
Yeah.
It's like, I love my dude Cassiope. Cassiope's the man, and I'll go to death for him. But Gable Stevenson he's just on a completely other level.
That's what, and what we're talking about right now. It's, the Gable Stevenson Cass matchup. It's kind of like the Lee versus McKee matchup right now, where it's like, yeah, could Patrick Mckee do it? Potentially. Take out the defending champ, but
not likely.
No, it's not likely.
So for all wrestling fans out there who don't know this, and Dylan, I might need your opinion on this.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us think that you just start at 125 and you just run through the whole list. But sometimes you start at, just a middle weight, you say 157. Yeah. What is the deciding factor of that? Or how do you determine who's going to start?
They draw for it, actually. So unless both squads decide to start at 125 or whatever, they'll draw for it. So like with this match, the marquee matchup being at 285, you're probably going to see them start at 125, I would assume. But technically, they can always draw for that as well. So every now and then you'll see them start at 41 or 49 kind of thing. And, the first couple of years that Iowa had Spencer Lee, they did that a little bit, starting at not heavyweight, but starting at 33. So Spencer would be the last match of the night. So you'll see that every now and again, but I think more often than not, you see them start at 125 and kind of go through the standard order.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting. I think this is going to be a really nice matchup. And based off of Dylan's predictions, we have Iowa winning 35-3. And I think, give or take one match, I think that's pretty damn accurate.
And I was going to say, what is that? 1, 2, 3. So that puts Iowa having four guys earn bonus points again with Lee, DeSanto, Ironman, and Kimmer. So if you disagree with me, you're wrong.
And that's if Kimmer decides to wrestle too.
Exactly.
So it could be Kennedy. And again, we could see Abasad over at 84.
Which, as long as Kimmer is healthy, you're going to see him wrestle. I don't see him sitting out 2 matches in a row unless there's something nagging him. For sure. Which I haven't heard that's the case, but I don't know that for sure.
For sure. Well, we started out the season with a big win against Nebraska. We got this against Minnesota. They just came out. Iowa Wrestling, it was pretty cool. They just came out with a I don't know. It's not necessarily a duel because it's a 3-team.
What do they call it? Like a triad or a triangular or something like that?
Something like that. Well, Illinois and Michigan are going to come to Iowa City the 31st, which will be an awesome matchup for fans. We see Iowa, Illinois duke it out, and then Michigan, Illinois duke it out, and then Iowa, Michigan to end the day. So it'll be a day full of wrestling, and I'm sure that a lot of Iowa fans are going to be tuned into Big Ten Network to watch that.
That's going to be a fun one, I think, especially that Iowa-Michigan meet. You know, you got Logan Massa coming back off that Olympic red shirt. You got Mason Paris, which is who Lance was talking about, that other heavyweight. So another stud there. So, yeah, Michigan's got some wrestlers. I'm sure I missed some dogs there too. So
should be a couple of great matchups, and obviously a good couple of weeks here for Iowa wrestling and everything here too. Rob, I want to know what your thoughts are on wrestling. Were you able to watch the meet against Nebraska, or do you have any questions or anything for somebody who isn't like heavily invested in the wrestling realm or side of things?
Sure. Well, yeah, I do have a question. So, like, I wasn't able to catch the Nebraska game, the Nebraska meet, so I wasn't able to watch, us take away with the win there. I do want to try to see what I can do to catch a few of these wrestling meets. So I feel bad, us talking about it and me not really being able to recite or relate as much. But you know what I mean? I'm new to wrestling, obviously, so I am just learning as I go. Right. But I mean, excited. I mean, we're in a great spot to learn, especially with Iowa being as good as they are. So some questions I have. So obviously, I mean, we talked about, and like me not really knowing a lot. I don't know why, but Tony Cassiope is my favorite wrestler on the team. Probably because he wrestles heavyweight.
Good choice.
He's from Roscoe.
I like Sam Stoll before we had Cassiope in there. Regardless, how, looking at his matchup against Gable Stevenson, how often do you see like upsets in wrestling?
Ooh, that's a good question, Rob. It happens. I would put it on the slightly rare scale, if that makes sense. So it definitely happens. Like, seeing Nelson Brands come out last week and, just piss pound Taylor Venz. Now they were 7-8 as far as the rankings go. So that's technically an upset, but early on in the season, it's hard to say because rankings will fluctuate so much. But as far as that goes, how often do upsets happen? They definitely happen, especially at the heavyweight level, because, these matches are typically decided by, a takedown. Because you get one takedown in the first and escape, in your turn in the second and third. And that's more often than not kind of the deciding factor in those matches. So when you see those upsets, you'll see them a lot at those heavier weights, not so much at the lighter weights. So I'd say they're a little more common, decently common at 285, and then less common as you go down in the weights, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
I guess, what do you think, Bo?
I would agree. I think your lower weights, it's tough because I feel like there could be upsets everywhere, but we all know who the great wrestlers are. Right. So it's not necessarily you don't see upsets as much in wrestling, in my opinion. I think where you see the upsets are anywhere from 4 in your ranking on the way up. Yeah. Your 1-2s when they start duking it out. I think those are toss-ups every single time. But when you get as low as 3 or 4 all the way back, I think that's where the technically upsets happen.
Right. So. And these upsets that we're talking about, typically those upsets just come down to the better technician, and maybe more so at the lower weights. But, like a Spencer Lee versus Patrick Mckee, I think it's safe to say most people assume Lee's going to win that match with bonus points. And that's just simply because Lee's not only has ridiculous strength for that 125 weight class, but, also just has the technician. The guy's been wrestling since he was out of the womb. So, if he gets that wrist locked up and gets you in the tilt, you're done. That's, 2 points plus the 4 near fall. Before you know it, you're down 6-0, and that's got to take the wind out of most wrestlers' sails right there. So that's why I say it's a little less likely to see that at those upper weights. But again, just as you go down, I don't want to say technique's not important because, a guy like Gable Stevenson, he has phenomenal technique. That's what makes him such a good wrestler at that heavyweight spot. Whereas, you look at 3, ranked 3rd on up, because you see that great technique with Mason Paris out of Michigan as well, who's currently ranked number 2 at heavyweight. But then as far as that goes, after that, you still see the technique, but I don't think it's as much of a factor necessarily as catching guys or, being more athletic and that kind of thing. So I could be way off there, and Lance might be laughing at me. Just my opinion.
Well, I'll tell you what, too. I mean, look at 133, that weight class, too. I mean, they're top 5 guys. Any of them could win in any single night, too.
Absolutely.
So almost have to weigh that in consideration, too. So
Right.
Gotcha.
that was a great question, Rob.
Yeah. I was gonna say, what else you got?
Sure. My other question would be, so here, here's the schedule for the Iowa Hawkeyes, wrestling season right now. I'm just taking this from the playbill or the program for their at the match at Minnesota. But so you look at our schedule, and there's just not a lot. It's a short season. Is this just due to COVID, or is this normally how long the season is? Because
No, yeah. So that's due to COVID, Rob. Typically, the wrestling season is going to start in like late November, possibly early December, and typically you'll get into those Big Ten matches in January. So as far as that goes, that's somewhat accurate. As far as the Big Ten duels and whatnot go, so yeah, I mean that's just mainly COVID right there. You see these guys wrestling pretty much, damn near every week. So just trying to get all these matches in. But it's funny that you bring that up, because now I'm just looking at, all the big duels, so to speak. And, you see Michigan where, the team's probably not necessarily where it needs to be, but, they have some phenomenal individual wrestlers. So that's one, the fans aren't going to want to miss out on. Ohio State as well. They're always a tough out. They're not the Kyle Snyder Ohio State that they once were, but nonetheless still have some absolute hammers in that lineup. And then Penn State, that's going to be a big duel. You got Aaron Brooks. Oh God. I mean, you just go down the line. I know they lose, Vincenzo Joseph, and then they lost Mark Hall as well. So both stud wrestlers that aren't coming back, but Penn State's still going to have quite a bit of firepower back in that lineup. So they're going to be a big one. And then the Wisconsin duel is typically, a big one as well. They've got some studs in there. Which is making me wonder if Evan Wick is still around. I want to say he is, but maybe he didn't go ahead and graduate last year. I can't remember. So, seeing him and Marinelli's duels throughout the years have always been fun. And yeah, I was going to say, it looks like, according to this, he's on the roster. So, yeah, he's another solid one. I wonder what weight he's at.
Yeah, so he's a senior.
So, looking at the schedule here, obviously, we're just playing the conference teams in the Big Ten, like our rivals and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But in a normal wrestling season, like I caught the one, not last year, but the year before, Iowa versus Iowa State in Carver, Hawkeye Arena. I was at that wrestling meet.
Right.
And so I know that we wrestle Iowa State just like we play them, in like a non-conference way, like, in football and basketball, things like that.
Right.
What are some other like wrestling non-conference matches that we see a lot of?
Typically have, so every year Iowa and Oklahoma State have a duel. And
Really?
that's gone on for, God, seems like as long as I've been alive, but yeah.
Because Oklahoma State is a really big wrestling school, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. They're a huge wrestling school. If you look at, as far as national championships go, it's, Oklahoma State #1, and I'm pretty sure Iowa's #2. And then from there, I couldn't even really tell you where it goes. But yeah, Iowa and Oklahoma State, that's been a rivalry for a long, long time, probably since Dan Gable took over the program.
And I think the last huge match they had was in 2015 with the grappling on the gridiron that day, and then Iowa played football against Minnesota that night.
Yep.
It was pretty damn cool to see something like that in November.
Yeah, I got drunk twice that day. That was awesome. So, yeah, awesome time. But yeah, that's always a really fun duel to be a part of. Where, I think last year you got to see Cade Brock, and you get to see some studs out of Oklahoma State. So, Yeah, phenomenal matchup we had to miss out on this year thanks to COVID. But
We had Lee. I think we had Lehigh last year or 2 years ago. The rest of them.
yep, Lehigh came into town. Usually one of those Ivy League schools comes around too, it seems like. I think they've had Cornell.
We had Princeton last year. We wrestled at Princeton last year, I remember.
Yep, Princeton was another one. Princeton's a good one too because you got Pat Glory, because everybody was saying that Spencer Lee ducked them, and obviously wasn't the case at all. So.
Well, and then also you had the Midlands, so you don't see a ton of just Big Ten schools. You see a ton of schools around the area too that come to that as well. So that's a huge tournament you have every single year.
Yep, and then obviously, they send wrestlers from the UNI Open and whatnot. Typically, that's like the lower level guys.
And then we forgot about Iowa State. We usually wrestle Iowa State every year for for the Cyhawk Trophy.
Oh yeah,
if they have a Cyhawk.
Well, yeah, I mean they do it for the Cyhawk series or whatever, but that's one of those duels that I was probably more of a casual fan growing up and whatnot, but growing up, that Iowa State duel, that was typically top notch 1 versus 2 kind of thing, and those were some awesome duels back in the day when Cale Sanderson was at the helm at Iowa State. So that program's went downhill since, but I think is on the rise once again with Kevin Dresser and Brent Metcalf and Derek St. John out there. So, which I guess Metcalf might not be out there anymore after that. But anyways, not important. So yeah, they got the Iowa blood in that wrestling program now, those Dan Gable disciples. So they're coming back up. They got Nate Carr, who's an absolute freak of a wrestler. David Carr. Yeah, Nate's his old man. My bad. But yeah, David Carr coming up, absolute stud. Yeah, I think Iowa State's well on their way back to being a power, and looking in state as well. I think UNI's got themselves an up and coming program where right now they're getting those wrestlers that are 4-timers out of the state of Iowa that may not necessarily be good enough to go to a school like the University of Iowa or even potentially Iowa State. So a lot of studs.
Gotcha. Well, good to know, guys. Looking forward to the match. Looking forward to another Hawkeye win here to set us up going 2-0. And hopefully we'll see what Cassiope brings to the table this week.
I'd love to see it, Rob. I'd love to see your man do his thing.
Biggest smile on the team, Tony Cassiope.
That's right.
What's funny too is that every announcer, everybody talks about Tony Cassiope's smile too. So It's awesome. I mean, he must be just an awesome guy.
Yeah.
Look forward to meeting him Sunday, having him on the pod.
Absolutely. The Ric Flair drip go, woo!
Yep. Is that his entrance song?
So that's what the fans in Carver will do, like as he's wrestling, just randomly, just woo! And
They'll do that for Cassiope?
Yeah. And that's a lot of the old men get annoyed by it, but anybody that grew up with Ric Flair, they love it. So
dude, I think that's the reason why I like Cassiope.
Yeah.
And how did that even start too?
I think it started with Sam Stoll. I think people did that for Sam Stoll, and then I don't know what he did, but then it just kind of kept going on, and now it's like a heavyweight wrestler thing.
Okay.
So
all right.
Yeah.
Gotta love it.
Right? Hell yeah.
If we're anything, we are clever as Hawkeye fans.
That's right.
And our cheers that we do for the heavyweight wrestlers.
Hell yeah.
Well, guys, is there anything else that we need to cover before we get out of here?
Rob, I think you did a great job talking about basketball, and Bill, I think you did a pretty damn good job of covering wrestling here. I think we're in for a pretty damn good week, and really excited to be a Hawk this week. Hopefully, we can end the week on 2 big wins.
Hell yeah.
And maybe see a couple upsets here, Iowa, Minnesota wrestling.
Absolutely.
Here we
It'll be great to
go.
watch. I'll see if I can catch it, so I can report back with my thoughts. I'll see if I can take some notes here, so we can kind of bring some other questions or anything like that we have, and you can talk about it, guys.
Sounds good.
Perfect. Well, as
Go
always,
Hawks.
guys,
What do you
it's
say?
been a pleasure. Go Hawks. We'll take us out with a little Hawkeye victory polka.